I have to say I'm very honored today, really very honored. I think one of the reasons is that I'm a great fan of Dr. Ramadan for a long time. So I'm a little bit intimidated today, okay? And my professorship has just started, so really don't take me as an academic or an intellectual to this. But I've been a practitioner for a long time. Another reason why I'm really honored because, you know, my relationship with Islamic relief has been for a long time as well. I remember when I got as a Secretary General, as the executive for Qatar Crescent, the first place or the first organization I visited was Islamic Relief. And I had the pleasure, actually, I learned a lot from them, and I had the pleasure of having Dr. Hanif Benna, is one of the men that established that organization, and we've been friends ever since. We meet many times, and he's been like a mentor to me as well. But he's too humble to accept that, I think, who knows him. You know, as a doctor, I look at social justice and I look at charity as if you have a renal stone. If you have a renal stone, you will have a severe pain. I don't know if anybody experienced that, but it is really one of the strongest pains that you could ever have. Social justice is done by the surgeon. You have to remove that stone. So you need somebody going there, courageous, to be able to go and open up or use scopes or something like this and remove that stone. He goes to the source. Otherwise, you will always have pain. So while somebody's trying to get that stone away, he has to be given some kind of medications, to reduce and alleviate that pain for a while. And that's what's supposed to be charity. That's my understanding. And I hope it's an understandable comparison in a way. So really for me, social justice is these really courageous guys, they go and fight the system. They really want to fix things. It's not easy, because you might lose your livelihood, you will be, I think you've been accused a lot as well, and by intellectual or something in Europe as well, you will be. Because you are tackling the status quo, you go against the customs of the society, their cultures, their laws, their something like this. But it is really that sense of justice. As we say, charity is really that when you have injustice and you have an impact of it, there is people there with a lot of compassion. And they will be like that net, trying to reduce the suffering that happening because of injustices. Okay? And that requires a lot of compassion. This is, I think, why compassion is central here. We have within our movement with the Red Cross Red Crescent what we do. We have a program for peace building, for example. And we have an educational program. We call it Youth as a tool for social cohesion and peace. Okay? And what they teach something they call non-cognitive education. And it starts actually to get into your heart, and you get that understanding. I'll tell you, they have 150 games or trainings. One of them, they bring people, two groups, like this. They put them in one room, and they blindfold one of the rooms, or one of the group. And then they put a sign that there is fire. So the group who can see it and see the danger leave. The other group, they can feel the movement, and they are very anxious. There's a lot of anxiety. Okay, there is a lot of fear, but they don't know what's going on, so they are there. When they reverse that, the group who were understand that feeling, what they've done, they took the hand of the other guys and took them out with them. You see, before you start feeling, and that's compassion by definition, when you feel the suffering of others, then you can really have that feeling that you want to assist, you want to help. Compassion is a very, very natural to us. It's a basic instinct that we have. You know, you can see babies with their parents, between humans, between animals, between man and animals, between creatures. It's all within our, everything living there. So it's there. But also we can be manipulated by media, by leaders, you know, by education. This is when you bring hate or love into these kind of things. So compassion is very central. Remember, it's very central to our religion. You can't read without the Quran to understand, and you want to view and look into your life and understand your life or understand things, something. And when you read in the Quran, you bring that in. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It comes in front of you. You know, one of the best examples that I think is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't correct me if I'm wrong, 10 million or so. But it's, you know, that one day he was late for his companions. Okay? So they were looking for him, and they found him by the side of the road, sitting with a small boy called Umar. Umar had a bird, and the bird died. So he was condoling them. He was really with him and trying to... This is an act of compassion by both, by the Prophet and by the boy. That's a lesson for all of us. You know? So I think from the hadith, when that guy came to the Prophet ﷺ and told him, I have 10 children, I never kissed any one of them. What did he tell him? That who does not have mercy will not receive mercies of God. Okay? It's simple. And we have to understand in our life, in everything we do, we have to be there. And I think this is how you start in any humanitarian work. But remember, charity, social justice, and I come from Qatar Crescent. Qatar Crescent is considered to be a humanitarian organization. And charity comes from a word that it's Christian love, it's related to religion and these kind of things. Humanitarian work is related to you give assistance during disasters, either wars or natural disasters. But actually, if you think about it as a Qatar Crescent, although we are defined like this, we actually do everything in a way. We do work in Qatar, which is by definition you consider it as a charitable work. Okay? We do international work, which some of it charitable, but a lot of it is, humanitarian work, and that's how we are defined. But we also address social justice. We have something called humanitarian diplomacy. Okay, so our humanitarian diplomacy is really to go into the core problems, and we address it through international humanitarian law, something, but we can't do it in public. You see, because for us as a humanitarian organization going into war zones, we need access. Access for international work is the key. Okay? If you can't get access, you can't do anything. If you can't reach what you want to have. Okay? So you must be able to reach. So we have a principle, we call it neutrality. We can't blame anybody. We can't point the finger. You could be painful, and you know who's the aggressor and aggressor, but you can never raise a finger. But you do it in private. And this is how we try to address it. Okay? So they are all mixed together. And I don't think you can really say, I'm just like this or like this. You have to be pulled around, because as a human being, you have that compassion, you have that sense of justice, and you have that type of solidarity. You will be pulled around in all directions. And this kind of activities could be very simple. Just be given a smile. For somebody walking in the middle of the street, these guys thinks that they are, nobody recognizes them, nobody knows about them. If you come to them and say hello and just smile to them, that's a big charitable thing. But it can grow, and more complicated, and more harder and harder and harder. It could be by money, energy, by knowledge, by position, whatever it is. But the hardest thing, which I really believe, that's doing humanitarian work and relief work in war zones, especially civil wars. Civil wars are very, very difficult and very complicated. You know, and these works are, somebody, Dr.Al Malika, Lisa Malika, I don't know what's her, but she's an American. She wrote a book, The Need to Help. And she did a study for the Finnish Red Cross, trying to understand what's the motivation. So she found a few points. Okay, but first let's go back to tell you, I don't know, if I take you to the difficulties, but just to understand that it is quite dangerous. It's hard to get access. To get into Myanmar 4 or 5 years ago when the whole problem started, I had to go meet the president there, and we had to get people from Southeast Asia that the government there to get involved to be able to open an office. But now we have a dilemma because access now is inside. So we pushed a lot of operation outside, but still we have an office, but we are struggling because of access. So just to remind you of this. Okay, emotionally it's very draining on our staff. It's really very draining. Now because of all legal things related to terrorism or something like this and the attack on us, you really have to put a lot of system in place. And the problem is the donors also don't understand we have to put a lot of system. They don't want you to take any percentage to support these kind of activities. It's, you open a company in your own country, it's very difficult. Imagine you go to somewhere that people may be suspicious and you go there and it's unstable environment. It's really very difficult. But let's go back to that study because you can tell people, why are you doing this? You stay away from your life, you lose your social life. But what they found, actually, one of the reasons is there is a romantic kind of things. It's a civilizational things. It's from there. It's the white man's burden. It's the social Darwinism. Either what you call it. It's the civilizational superiority. You have that in mind. Why? Because to give others, it's a moral thing. It's an ethical, moral kind of thing. So you feel that's the highest level in human activities, and you go to people, others, and you give them basic human needs: food, security, water, and these kind of things. So this is one of the things they discovered. The second one is that there is a lot of people living in a comfortable life, and we can see it here in Doha. You can go in the morning, a little bit of traffic, you go to work, you finish, you go home, whatever, and then your social life, it becomes a routine. No more sensory stimulus. So people need excitement. And they find that in these other places. Some people feel uselessness in their own societies. And they become important when they go somewhere else. Especially look at the old and lonely, if they take care of children or orphans or something like this, there is a feeling that it is you are there, you are important, these guys are dependent on you, you are important. So this all the kind of dynamic there is there. There is also some kind, we call it martyr mentality, which is people like to feel victimized, not victimized, but they are the sacrificers. They are the Mother Teresa's. That's the model now. You are sacrificing your life for others and this kind of thing. So you have that sense of mission. So there is a lot of dynamics here, and I think it goes well with a lot of things as well, for a lot of people as well. Because look, pay is nothing. There is a study. They say 25%. People in humanitarian work are paid 25% of what they are paid similar people in private sector. So people do this, but there is other reasons. I think for us as a Muslim, there is, you pay money and you try to do things. There is compulsory. Zakah is a compulsory thing. You do it, and if you go beyond the sadaqah, this is ihsan, you want to go further and further. And sometimes because of zakah, there will be people trying to, manage this zakah. It creates some kind of, in a practical sense, some kind of market, and people have to be working in it, and little by little there is a need outside, and so people will go into this because of our economical, or because of our system within the Islamic system. But there is another one, which is within something they call the positive psychology. There is a guy called Slingman. He worked 30 years to identify and develop this positive psychology, and he said, look, in that happiness, and he said happiness comes from three things. One he called pleasant life. Pleasant life is about materialistic life. Okay? And you have a good house, you have a good car, you have a good wife, good family, good food. Okay? So you are really enjoying the materialistic life. But he said, this is like drugs. You either have to increase the dose, and you can see this guy, they have a yacht, and then they want a bigger one, and a bigger one. Or you have to change the type. They change the type of the car, or they change. So there is this kind of thing. And he said this type of happiness is the lowest type of happiness that can give you very temporary kind of things. You buy a new car, you are over the moon, but a few months, that's it. So the second one, they say it's a good life. Good life is really about first understanding your quality as an individual. If you understand it and you develop it well, then you become very good in what you do. And imagine, you walk into, if you are a professor, into university. I did not experience that yet, so inshallah I will. But if you are very good in what you do, and you go to work, when you enter that door, you are a very important person. Everybody looks at you. You are the guy who's, people, if they have a problem, they will come back to you. You are the reference. So your happiness, all this secretion inside your body make you flying. Okay? So this is why you have people who are workaholics. They don't want to leave. Because they might, when they go home, maybe there it's a different story. He's not the most important person there. Okay? I don't want to sound unfeminist or something like this. But it's true. It's really that's what. And this is a better 2 minutes, inshallah, I will finish. The third one, which is the most important, which is the highest level, that give you a lot of pleasure, which is really, it's the altruistic, the things that you do something for others and you don't want anything back from them. That would give you the highest level of, they say gratitude is part of that. SubhanAllah. How many times we say Alhamdulillah in our lives? Okay? If we really say it and we believe that God gave us all this, and we say it sincerely, okay, they say this can give you a lot of happiness. If somebody does something good for you, say, write a letter, go to him, knock the door, read to him what you are thanking him for, and just give him the letter and leave. And that gives you 6 months, secretion of happiness. My final talk. Look, whatever you decide, this is your life, but make it worthwhile. You want to smile to people, you want to go to war zones, you want to do this, just do it. Because look, a person that only take care of themselves, they call it selfish. A person who take care of his family, they're a good family man or woman. Person that good for their community, they're charitable people. If you're good for your country, you're a hero. But remember, what did the prophets do? They managed and they tried to make a better humanity. And these are called great people. It's up to you to decide. Is it your community? It's up to you. You are not forced to do this. But always, please, do it with compassion and with justice. Thank you very much indeed.